Welcome back, my friends, to a slightly different type of video from Mission for Tuition. You know the story. We're trying to raise money for our son's middle and high school tuition. Like, comment, subscribe, do all of that good stuff to help with the YouTube algorithm, because it's only the views that help the channel. But here's what I want to say. I think every single person watching this video, if you're not already, you can get into Hyper. You absolutely can. And I am designing this video to help you get there. Sorry for the little video interruption, but while I was recording this, I got this package with this card in it, and it also contained cookies. It was from RIOT. I was super excited. The kid is over the wall. But with that said, let's get back to the video. Thank you, RIOT, for this stuff. It's awesome. There's an old saying that everyone wants everything done good, fast, and cheap, but you can only actually pick two. You can get it good and fast, you can get it good and cheap, but it's not going to be fast, etc., etc. Well, it's very, very similar in TFT. Everyone wants the perfect champions, perfect items, perfect augments. You likely only have a shot at two of those. I'm going to do a detailed breakdown of 4 different builds to show you what the best possible augments are, the best possible champions, the best possible items, and I can pretty much guarantee you if you can hit 2 of the 3, you are going to get top 4 very, very often. And as it's pretty obvious here, we're going to start with Chemtech. But even before I go into the specifics, there's one augment that if you get it, you take it no matter what. It's New Recruit. This is the best augment in the game, so if you see this one, just grab it, and that counts for any build that we're going over today. Champion-wise for Chemtech, it's pretty simple. You just want to pick up, well, Chemtechs with a goal towards getting the strongest ergot you can. But overall, it's just about getting as many Chemtechs as possible, whether it's 7 or 9 based on the augments. But while we watch this insane creature of destruction just absolutely wreck this Yordle team, let's consider that this isn't what's going to happen in most games. You're probably going to have to rely on your augments and your items to make Chemtech really work for you, so let's start with the augments. So your first loyalty as far as augments go is to the Chemtech Heart, Crest, or Crown, anything to get you more Chemtechs, because you would like to get to 9 if you can. For Chemtech, your next best ones are Instant Injection and Chemical Overload. You very rarely see them side by side. In fact, I've never seen it. So if you get a chance to pick them up, just pick them up. They will do well for you. Now let's assume you're in one of those games where you don't get the absolutely perfect augments. There's a lot that will work with Chemtech that can make your team strong. Since your main damage in Chemtech is likely to be Twitch or Ergot, Weak Spot is an absolutely awesome augment for it, since it will weaken the armor of your opponents. Since Ergot has a very specific set of items that work perfect for him, Pandora's items is an excellent pickup for Chemtech. This way you can assure yourself that you're going to have the absolute best items, even if you don't have the perfect augments to go along with it. And even though you don't necessarily need healing because Chemtech has a healing element in it, picking up Celestial Blessing or Thrill of the Hunt will certainly not hurt you, because any additional healing to keep your champions up longer will be useful as they do their damage. Assuming you found some set of acceptable augments, let's look at items. The perfect item set I found for Ergot involves a Runan's Hurricane, Rage Blade, and then either the Infinity Edge or the Last Whisperer. Those together will really make Ergot seize control of the match. But you can't always get exactly what you want. I think the Runan's Hurricane is absolutely essential. From there, you could just go straight to Infinity Edge and Last Whisperer together. Or you could substitute healing items for one or both slots with Bloodthirster or Hand of Justice. But remember, you don't have to hit everything. You just need 2 out of the 3. You might not get the perfect augments or the perfect items, but you get decent champions or any of the other combinations. The goal is ultimately just get yourself into the top 4, and if you can get 2 with Chemtech, you're probably going to end up winning. This next comp I have talked about a ton of times, and I'm actually shocked that I don't see it played more often since it's such an easy and obvious combination, and that's Syndicate Assassins. So champion-wise, you have one of two possibilities. It's either trying to get a gold Shaco or a 2-star. Hey, if you can get the 3-star gold Akali, go for it. I usually find it easier to get to Shaco. Yeah, that's how I'm going to pronounce it. Akalis are not as common, and Shacos, for some reason, are just ignored quite often by opposing teams. So there are two ways I like to work into this comp, either via the champion path, which means getting a Shaco out of the first NPC round, or via a really clear indication such as Syndicate Heart, Syndicate Crest, Syndicate Crown, something that tells me I'm going to be able to get to the 7 syndicates. Even if I don't have a Shaco, I will take this as a clue that I can move in that direction because I'm going to get one eventually, and once you get the 7 syndicates and 4 assassins, it just becomes a little bit ridiculous. So let's assume you've gotten your sign, you've gotten your Shaco, you've gotten your extra syndicate. What other augments are really good? I really like Knife's Edge for this build because it's very easy to stack everyone in the first 2 rows. Also, Weak Spot is an excellent augment since it's going to allow you to reduce armor and your team is likely to kill things very quickly. For that exact same reason, Sunfire Board makes a really neat fit because this is going to weaken the opposing team, allowing your team to kill them even faster. Now I want to talk about the more situational augments, such as Smoke Bomb or Cutthroat. If you are heading in a direction where you're going to have 6 assassins as the main part of your build instead of the 7 syndicates, then it's good to pick up these assassin-specific buffs because they're going to be excellent for your team. On the other hand, if you are going into the 7 syndicates and you get the chance for One for All, it's not a terrible idea. However, I tend to avoid this one simply because I often don't know if I'm going to be able to get to 7 syndicates when it's offered. You only want this if you're going to get to 7 syndicates because that's going to be the majority of your team. If all else fails, I tend to look to the healing augments of Celestial Blessing and Thrill of the Hunt. I usually prioritize Thrill of the Hunt a little bit higher than Celestial Blessing for this because your assassins are going to go through people quickly, and thus the burst healing from Thrill of the Hunt is often more effective. Now, as I said earlier in the video, ultimately you only need 2 out of the 3 things. In this particular game that I'm showcasing in the background, I have the champions because I have my 5 syndicates and at the moment 5 assassins, but I'm going to be able to go up to 6 assassins as soon as I get to the next round. So I have my champions. My augments are garbage. I've managed to get Celestial Blessing, and then everything else was a trash show. So I did not have the augments to pull this off. But now we get into the items, and I'm going to start with the items for Shaco. The 2 absolute must-haves are Infinity Edge and Last Whisper. They allow him to automatically crit and then also shred armor, making it easier to take the target down. Your goal in this build is to take things down quickly, and this will help you do it. As for third items, there were a few to choose from. My first choice would be Rapid Fire Cannon. That's because Shaco will drop aggro every time he ults, so if he's also attacking from a distance, it does really well. My second choice would be Runan's Hurricane. This allows him to shred armor on multiple targets at the same time, and even though he's next to them, he'll still be doing tons of damage. If I can't get any of those, I will go for a Rage Blade. Rage Blade, of course, will allow him to speed up his attacks throughout the match, which will just make him more powerful and able to get through things much quicker. I tend to avoid the healing items simply because healing is part of the Syndicate comp. So as long as you have 5 syndicates, then all of your syndicates are getting Omnivamp from all of their abilities and don't need additional healing items. If you want to use Akali as your ultimate carry, there's a different set of items for her. You're most likely going to want to use Cat as an item holder, so make sure you have a spare on the bench that you can swap in. Blue buff is an absolute must for her because you want her casting early and often. Hextech Gunblade isn't a bad get unless you're running 7 Syndicate, then you don't need it because your entire team is getting Omnivamp. Jeweled Gauntlet is an excellent one since she's likely to have a high crit chance, and this will make her spells crit every single time. And if you want to absolutely ensure that she's going to crit, then you could add Infinity Edge into the mix as well. Overall, this combination is incredibly powerful, but again, you're not going to want to wait till the end. You're going to want to put it on Katarina and then use her as an item holder and swap her out and hopefully have a spare to bring in. But just to bring this point home one more time, as you can see, again, this game, my augments were trash. I got the champions, I got the items, and it ultimately led to victory. You need 2 out of the 3, and if you can get it, you have a really good chance of winning and an almost guaranteed chance of getting into the top 4. I apologize in advance for this next build, but I cannot do a video like this without it, because it is one of the most prolific builds and strongest builds in TFT at this time. And yeah, it's Yordles. It's Yordles. So let's go. Champion-wise, I really only like to go for Yordles if I have gotten 1 or 2 3-cost Yordles out of the NPC round. This is Vex or Heimer. If I see one or both of those, I am likely going to give Yordles a shot, because I know ultimately it'll be a race against the other 7 people who are trying to do Yordles in the lobby, but at least then I know I have a jump on them and I might be able to get ahead. That doesn't often happen because you're relying on luck, so then we have to look into what are the best augments and items. My personal favorite augment for going Yordles is Golden Ticket, because it gives you a really high chance of getting free refreshes, which means you can pick up lots of Yordles and complete your build early. That's kind of the key, because as you gold each Yordle, then you're not going to get them again and it will work on the next highest Yordle. High Roller is another one that will often point me into the Yordle direction, because used early on Lulu, it will give you pretty much all Yordles. So you're looking at picking up to 15 Yordles from your shop just for getting the 3 loaded die. Then of course there's Trade Sector, which is similarly useful, but I wouldn't go for that and then decide to go into Yordles. I would want to see one of the 3 cost first and then pick up Trade Sector. The reason is Golden Ticket is going to give you much more in the way of rerolls, and Loaded Die is going to give you a ton of Yordles all at once, so you can get them up to gold. Trade Sector alone is just going to give you 1 free refresh per round, which is good if you already have a strong base. So let's say you've either gotten your 3-cost Yordles out of the NPC round, or you've gotten Golden Ticket or High Roller, and you're now down the Yordle rabbit hole. What augments do you take from there? There are some obvious ones, like So Small, which give your little team of rats a really high percentage dodge chance, as they did in previous seasons. Another surprisingly strong augment for Yordles is Ascension, and that's because if you're setting them up properly, you have clumped them into a corner and they are hard to get to, which means they are going to last a long time. The longer the match lasts, the more effective something like Ascension can be. Binary Airdrop is also incredibly effective on Yordles, because you have a lot of different champions that you want to itemize, and in a lot of cases you only need 2 key items to get them going, and Binary Airdrop will put a random 3rd item in place, so you get to itemize more champions more often. Along that same line, Pandora's items can be very useful, because it'll help you get the exact right items on the exact right champions. And as I mentioned before, one of the goals with Yordle is to clump them together, and Phony Frontline will help with that a ton, giving the opponents more targets to hit. And finally, as far as augments go, Yordles have a lot of synergies, so you can be open to anything with additional snipers or arcanists or enchanters. All of these will work with Yordles to bring them up to the next level. Now let's look at the third part of the triad, which are items. There are 3 main champions you are looking to itemize, and that is Tristana, Heimer, and Vex. Heimer is your AP champion, so you want the Hextech Gunblade on him, as well as some type of mana items such as Blue Buff or Spear of Sojin. Then you want to enhance that power a little bit more with something like Jeweled Gauntlet, Rabadon's Death Cap, or even Archangel's Staff. All of them will make Heimer more powerful, allowing him to do more healing to keep your team up while doing damage at the same time. The second champion to worry about is Tristana. I find the most effective and most important item on her is Rage Blade, so she's attacking fast. After that, some form of damage such as Infinity Edge or Giant Slayer. Deathblade can also be incredibly effective because it scales with the star level of the champion, and you're going to get her to 3 stars. After that, presuming I didn't get binary airdrop, I like to add in some healing such as Bloodthirster or Hand of Justice, but there are a lot of different ways you can go. You can go with Runan's Hurricane or something like that, so you can spread out her attacks across more targets. The final champion you're looking to itemize is going to be Vex, and that is your tank champion, so you can just go crazy with tank items. Some combination of Gargoyle Stoneplate, Ionic Spark, Dragon's Claw, Sunfire Cape, Frozen Heart will all be effective on Vex, as that will allow her to stay alive longer, keep things back, and then your damage, which is Tristana and Heimer, will finish them off. A couple of final points about Yordle. I have seen a trend lately where some people are using Exiles as an augment. Don't do it. The goal of Yordles is to clump them together and they protect each other. Exiles does exactly the opposite of that and will ultimately weaken your team. These are not high health characters who will get huge shields from Exiles. And again, look for 2 of the 3. Either see your augments coming in, your champions coming in, and or the perfect items. You want to get at least 2 of them, and this will work. You're going to have a lot of competition for it. A lot of people play Yordles, so make sure you have something clear telling you to go it before you try it, or else you're probably going to just end up feeding the other players. The final build I'm going to go over today, I am just going to call Lux, and that's because this she-demon can absolutely eradicate almost entire teams in just a few shots. There are a couple different builds that can lead to Lux being your carry, so I don't want to pigeonhole it to just Academy or just Arcanist. Either one will get you there. There are different sets of augments for each one, and then not necessarily different sets of items, but depending on how your team ends up getting set up, different sets of items you might want to consider. Champion-wise, the obvious main champion is Lux. You need to at least get her to 2 stars. If you get her to 3 stars, then it's game over. But you either want to surround her with Arcanus or Academy. Either one will work fine. They will both make her strong and enable her to win. Let's start by talking about Arcanist. Obviously, you want to see if you can get an Arcanist Crest, an Arcanist Heart, or Arcanist Crown, something to give you the 8 Arcanists. Then there are a couple of augments that go specifically well with Arcanist, such as Spellblade, which gives you bonus magic damage based on your ability power, or Runic Shield, which gives your champions a starting shield equal to a percentage of their ability power. If you have the opportunity to go Academy, you're looking for Academy Crest or Academy Heart, or of course Academy Crown, so that you can be sure to get up to the 8 Academies. If you end up going in the Academy direction, keep your eye out for Cram Session. This is a fantastic ability that will allow your champions to cast again rapidly after their first cast, and with a champion as powerful as Lux, a second cast coming right after the first one, well, it's going to be devastating. There are really 2 ways to think about your Lux build. Number 1, you want to protect her, so phony frontline isn't a bad idea because it simply gives the opposing team more stuff to get through. Sunfire Board can also be very effective because Lux does a lot of damage very quickly, and if they're in a weakened state, they will go down faster. Since Lux needs some very specific items, consider Pandora's item as a chance to put together the perfect Lux items. And if all else fails, you can always go with your healing augments, such as Thrill of the Hunt or Celestial Blessing, but I look at those as an absolute last resort. But now let's talk about items, because that's really going to be one of the keys. Unless everything else is absolutely perfect, like I said, you just need 2 out of the 3. But Lux is likely going to come down to items because the augments are very specific that will make her perfect. There are 2 different ways to go, and it depends on how your front line looks. If Lux is extremely well protected, you can turn her into an absolute damage machine with a combination of blue buff, Infinity Edge, and Jeweled Gauntlet. That would cause every single one of her spells to automatically crit, and she will be absolutely super powerful, wiping out teams fast. The problem is then she has very little sustain, so you need her to be protected long enough to get the job done. The other option, and the one which I prefer, is to go with a more sustained approach, which means your key item is going to be your Hextech Gunblade. Then you want a mana item such as Blue Buff or Spear of Sojin, ending with a damage item such as Rabadon's Death Cap or Jeweled Gauntlet. Notice I'm leaving Archangel Staff off the list, and that is because Lux attacks quickly and teams go down fast, so you're not going to get the same benefit you would, such as having it on a Heimer when you're dealing with much longer fights. One of the things I really like about Lux is that she counters a lot of the other builds I went over today, so it makes her extremely powerful, but she's also very specific, and she's not guaranteed to win. There are going to be times where they're going to be able to get to her, and she does remain squishy once you get to her. Pairing her up with a Yuumi is going to be key, because Yuumi will keep her shielded and enable things to be held in place so that Lux can get them killed. I know this is a longer video than I usually do, and I hope it helps. I wanted to really go over the 4 builds I think will take people into Hyper. If you learn these 4 builds, the augments and the items, I have no doubt in my mind you will see victory and you will see Hyper tier before the end of this season. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an absolutely awesome day.